Is the budget an equitable one? That is the question I have today for my guests. Good morning, guys, and welcome to Unique Not Different with me, Shamla. And today,
Good morning.
hi,
Good morning.
good morning. And today I have lecturer of the University of the West Indies in Banking and Finance, Mr. Prakash Ramlakhan, and I also have a representative from the disabled community, Jason Clark, the first vice president of Trinidad and Tobago disabled chapter, TT. TT. So good morning and thank you for coming and being willing to have a discussion like this. So I would start with Mr. Ramlakhan. Mr. Ramlakhan, good morning and thanks for coming. And I would like to ask, in the past, and coming down, have you ever seen a budget that fully allocate expenditure towards, I guess, encompassing everyone, including the disabled community?
Good morning, Shamla. Good morning to your guests.
Good morning.
Over the years, I have not seen a budget that specifically addresses the issues of the disabled community. I think somewhere in the details that should have been highlighted. Unfortunately, the attention that they deserve is still lacking. The current budget had singled out the removal of duties and taxes on equipment, such as hearing aid and so on for the specially abled. I think it is a welcome gesture. And again, unfortunately, it is too late. There should be no special mention for the group of people who are considered differently able. They are part of our society and they need to be integrated at all levels. And at the policy level, there should be no exception. So as far as I'm concerned, what has been allocated to them in this budget should have been done perhaps several decades ago. And future budget should ensure that there is sufficient reallocation to this special group so that they bring them up to speed in the quickest possible time so that they have fairness. I'm not dealing with equity because we have different abilities. We are not equal. But there should be fairness in how we treat with everyone. We have grown up in a society where we see people who are differently able as being, unfortunately, a liability. There's a cost to the state. Disabled grant is a burden on families. No, I think it's about time that we transform the society to understand that these people are not liabilities. We need to allocate the resources to build their capacity so that they become assets. I mean, look at your case. You contribute to the tax pool. You contribute value to your organization in so many ways. These people are assets who, unfortunately, have been relegated when it comes to budgeting and other issues. So I think it's high time that we treat them in a manner that they are able to create financial independence, social independence, and physical independence.
Awesome. So, Jason, if you were to allocate, if you were to prioritize certain sectors, because, okay, so let's face it, in reality now, we in a pandemic, our economy is shrinking, etc. And there's only so much, I guess, money we have in our country currently to allocate expenditure when we had. They didn't do it, so now we have less. They say they're going to do it. So if you were to prioritize certain sectors to, I guess, allocate expenditure, what would you say as from a disabled standpoint would be that sector, the sector?
Okay, well, thanks and good morning. Good morning, TMT, and to your guests. And what we look at areas of priority for us as persons with disabilities and from the perspective of the Trinidad and Tobago chapter of Disabled People International, we look primarily at education. Why we put that as foremost is because as was said by Doc there, that not only a reliance on the disability assistance grant, because yes, we appreciate the provision of the grant to persons with disabilities, and that is a form of social support which we still encourage, because not everyone, would be able to cope in situations in terms of education and training. But we really put forward education and training so that we know that when persons with disabilities are properly educated, then we could look forward for proper employment, gainful employment, so that we don't have to, to eliminate that reliance on the disability grant. So, we look for those two areas where we can, as we say, build capacity amongst persons with disabilities that they could live independently. So, these are some of the areas, but legislation is what I want to put forward today, because, for years now we have been talking about the rights of persons with disabilities, and I believe it's time that we move away from talking about rights to now implementation of legislation.
Right. Mr. Ramlakhan, I would have to ask, because obviously budget is a layering process, right? So finance minister don't necessarily come and just say, you know what, we have this expenditure, etc. So it's a layering process. What would you think have to be done in terms of, okay, we need now, as you mentioned, fairness, and I guess to fix what was things that fall through the cracks earlier on, right? What do you have to be done from a policy standpoint to say, okay, this needs to be done now in terms of inclusivity, fairness, and equity in the budget?
Shamla, I'll build on what Jason said because it ties in with your question.
Yes.
Education, not just for the specially able, but education also for the public, and in particular, those who interact with the specially able. And there should be a general awareness at the national level. So people understand the needs, they understand the constraints in which the specially able have to operate. So I think at the policy level, there need to be some sort of catalyst to get things rolling. And I would strongly suggest, this in my view, that the representative like Jason and others begin to ramp up their lobby and create the awareness. Educate, because if the others are unaware, and I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, because they don't have the exposure, they don't live close to one, and they may not know. I think the awareness has to be created and the lobby has to be ramped up, and claim your fair share of the national pie so that your development is not going to be inhibited because you are voiceless or because you are invisible. You are not voiceless and you're not invisible. And it's about time you make your presence be seen and be heard so that you can be part of national policy making in a fair and rational way.
And just a quick question, right? Given the current expenditure, etc., is there any way that it can be manipulated when making decisions, X-ray, for example, transport, road network, etc., right? Is there quickly, can you just say, is there any way that the policy could be, I guess, in this fiscal, be manipulated or anything to cater? Is that right? Right? For access, is that right? For leisure, etc., to accommodate persons with disability for decision making going forward to allocate this expenditure when expanded?
Yes, I think once the policy is transparent, you should have a monitoring unit to ensure that it is implemented in a way that it was designed and the benefits are achieved or realized by those who it was designed to benefit. So if you look at the transport, this is an area that is lacking. We are in the 21st century, and you have to call a special transport unit, or you may have to wait days before you get adequate transport. The government should take a policy that a certain percentage of the buses should be equipped to deal with people who are specially able and people who are on wheelchairs. And even you have mothers with strollers, with babies. They also need to have these buses with ramp so they can enter with ease. I'm not saying all the buses, but a certain percentage of the buses, and schedule them like the top of every hour, a bus with these special features will be at this bus stop. And you should have some sort of station or channel in which you can call to confirm that the bus is on schedule.
Yeah.
And if I may add here, there should be adequate facilities so that when you go to the bus, it's easy to ramp up to the pavement or the platform and board the bus. Again, you should be independent. You shouldn't depend on anyone to give you access to the bus doors, in or out. So I think we need a lot to be done. And again,
Yes.
you have to play your space. If you leave it to others, we have seen what happened over the years. They would
Yeah.
think you are comfortable because in this country, if you don't make noise, they think you are happy with what is happening. You don't have
Yes,
to make noise. You have
I
to
want to
be
agree with Mr.
reasonable.
Lacan, yeah?
Yes, you have to be reasonable. You have to educate, and you have an excellent platform here to disseminate the information, to create the awareness, and demand the respect. Because,
Yes.
because I don't think fair respect is being given to the community.
Yes, I
Unfortunately,
want to agree with Mr. Lacan.
with housing and sports,
Yeah.
why it is in these housing units, a certain allocation is not given to the specially abled. Because if you bring the specially able, you provide adequate housing, you have a sufficient group of people where the recreational facilities could now be designed to accommodate
Yeah.
people with special physical abilities.
Yeah.
So all these have to be addressed.
Right.
It's past due for I should say our community with people with different abilities to be integrated in a way that is natural, because there's nothing unnatural about anything about specially able people. Your abilities are just different,
Yeah.
and I think it's about time that
Yeah.
we recognize that
Yeah.
and cater accordingly.
Awesome. I know we are out of time, but seriously, Jason, I know I only asked one question, but definitely your feedback was given that education.
Yes.
And Mr. Ramlakhan, given your expertise in finance, banking, etc., this was really, really, really eye-opening. I really hope it reaches who it's supposed to reach. So decision making can be manipulated and implemented accordingly to cater for inclusivity. Thank you very, very much.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Thank you. And guys, with that being said, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in to this week's segment of Unique and Different. And as I always say, be good, do good. Thank you. Bye, guys. Bye, Mr. Ramlakhan. Bye, Jason.
Take care.